Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Val Evans, and we're talking about the Idaho murders. And I have with me psychic medium Roberto with me. How are you doing, Roberto?
Hello, Val. Good to meet you, and thanks for reaching out to bring me onto your show. And I'm happy to be here today.
You've had so many great shows, and so I had to ask you to come on to talk about hopefully a few of them, but one is Idaho. And you've had
Absolutely.
really, interesting ways in which you get clues and also some really interesting conclusions, including with your, I think one of your Idaho shows, which we can get to later, is the keypad, which the keypad to the house. And that was really interesting for me to hear, which I really want to get into. But one of the reasons that I have this this slide here, I think it's really intriguing because with the chart, and for anybody who's just coming in and finding out how to get clues using astrology and psychic clues and numerology today because of psychic medium Roberto, it's what we do is we focus on the time, and the time meaning for astrology, the time stamp. Time and space, when it converges, can give us clues. And we draw a chart on AstroSeek, and we get an idea of what the sky looked like at the moment of the crime or pretty close to the crime. So here, we have a...
looking forward to it.
Yeah, we have a picture of a dancer here in the second house, and we have a lot of Scorpio. And so I think, and we're going to get into that a little bit later about what I think we're getting to when it comes to revelations. Now, I also want to I'm going to forward over to your slide in 1 second. Let me just... Okay, just quickly, this is the slide for the hearing in June. And you can see there's a big red line between the ascendant, which represents those people at the table who are in front of the judge, and the square to Uranus, which means a huge shock. And it's actually a T-square with the point of fortune. So it means that what somebody there is trying to do isn't going to work. And we hope that that is the person on trial, but it looks a little nerve-wracking to me. But first, let's get to your first slide.
Yeah, and just quick, Val, have they set a date for the trial or the hearing?
It's the hearing, June 26th, 2023 at 9 a.m. And for those of you who want to take a look a little bit further, my last show, we talked a lot about what I was seeing for June 26th. It's an earthquake. And
June 26, 2023, huh?
Yes. Are you going to do your
24? Where am I? 24, 23, huh?
23. Mm-hmm.
Well, the good thing is that we're in 2023, it's all about justice with that 7.
Okay.
And that 26-8. It's good. Yeah, there could be some issues in the morning, I reckon. 14-5, 7, 12-3. Yeah, it's interesting that the outcome of the day is 12-3, and that's definitely going to be in the favor of the law. Because as we know, when the murder occurred, was an outcome 12-3. And also, and in fact, one of my viewers actually commented about this, when the arrest was made was also a 12-3. So 3 is going to be very important during, if we had to do a full study of day 1 to day end, 3 is going to be very prominent. And that normally deals with when we're dealing with a negative situation like a multiple murder and even spousal murders. The number 3 always seems to pop up. And that is all about abuse, control, controlling women. And, with Brian, that's all he was about, was his issues with women, So that 3, very prominent, very fortuitous that the hearing starts on the 12-3 because that's the day he was arrested as well. And the murders were committed on the 12-3 as well, yeah.
and almost the exact date as the Ted Bundy Chi Omega trial. Now, this is a hearing and not the trial, and the same type of chart too, with Leo playing such a big role, and Leo meaning a lot of things that we talked about in the last show, a lot of, from a very basic sense, a lot of blondes, a lot of families.
Yeah.
And they are there at the table or behind the murderer, which might be Mars there, which is somebody who, or that could also be someone who is fighting too, fighting for either fighting for justice or not. But let's back up for a second now. You not only with your psychic clues, you also use numerology. When did you realize that numerology could play such a big part in getting clues in crimes?
Yeah, good question, Val. Before I was practicing professionally, I was working in the television and film industry for quite a while. And it just so happened that I met a numerologist.
Okay.
And I ended up producing YouTube videos for her on her YouTube channel for like 4 odd years. So, when I was shooting them plus editing, all that information was getting in over 4 years. And I started seeing patterns. I started seeing what numbers were meaning, what the situation is. And it's quite interesting now that I'm doing it on my own that, there's certain numbers that always pop up, especially when there's crimes like this. Good example, I'll give you one good example, 18-9, 17-8. We've seen that in several shows that I've done recently as well with the Connie murder. But I started seeing patterns. So what I did was, because I obviously want to be psychic medium first, and then I use numerology as a confirmation tool, or I can use numerology, basic numerology, just to give me a sense of where I need to focus my psychic abilities and just see what I can pick up and identify. I've always said this, we are never a number. So let's get that clear. We are never a number. And that's why when I do my slides, I try to put pictures up of people. But, it's amazing how our life path numbers and our major numbers in our date of birth always seem to pop up. And we'll see later how the outcomes of the 4 students, how they impacted with Brian's numbers.
Yes.
And but just to answer your question, I started seeing patterns.
Okay.
I can look at a series of numbers and I can start seeing and get a sense of what was happening, what was going on. Mm-hmm. And
and can you explain something real quick? You said 18-8. Can you explain to us what does that mean when you put a slash?
So it's 18-9. So let's say if the outcome of your date of birth, let's just check something here quickly.
Okay. I hope you're not going to check mine.
There's one, if you want to bring up, do you have those days there? And I can just point it out, those days leading up to the event?
Yep, hang on one second.
So 18-9, now when we, where we lead up to the days,
okay, not the day versus the arrest, or just the true crime, or the one, their birthday?
Okay, not to worry. You might not have received it yet. I did send it by email. Okay, so let's just talk about 18-9. Okay. 18-9. Now we must understand, first of all, context is very important. Okay. We are dealing with a negative situation where, of course, people were murdered. Mm-hmm. And that in itself is quite a situation. Now, when you have the number 9, usually will indicate murder, that a murder has occurred. And so it's interesting, for example, I can see here on November the 10th, we had an 18-9 leading up to November the 13th. So that tells me, that 1-8 is about communication.
And you're adding 1 plus 8 to get 9.
Gives you the 9, correct.
Okay, sorry.
So the 1 plus the 8 equals 9. No problem whatsoever. Okay. So when you got the 18-9, you got someone that is communicating or talking about or thinking about committing a murder.
Okay.
In a negative context. Now, we must understand 18-9 is not the all bad number. Let's make that clear for your viewers as well.
Okay.
18, 9, or 9. 9, if you take 9 on its own, in a positive context, it's all about the Buddha. It's about being one with yourself. It is a higher power number. It is higher learning. It is higher self. But in a negative context, it gets flipped where it's the negative aspect, excuse me, and we start dealing with issues like murder. So a lot of these cases that I've been doing, and in particular, it does occur here with the Idaho students, where we see the presence of 18-9. And that for me, and we've got a build up here, 16-7, 17-8, 18-9 tells me there's a murder being planned. And, with Brian, he was definitely planning this murder for some time. And we know now that he was planning this for a while. But it's clear indication that, when I was putting these days together, this guy was circling around these 4 people. And I would just refine that and say, you were circling around Madison and Kaylee most definitely, without a doubt. And with Xana, I would say, although, the reason why she was killed, I believe, and it's in her date of birth, is because she was part of the circle of friends.
Okay.
And if I recall correctly, because I haven't looked at this case since I did my show on my channel, and that is the reason why Xana and Ethan were attacked and murdered was because of proximity. In other words, they were in the location, they were there. But I do believe that his main priority would have been Madison and Kaylee. But just to circle back, 9 generally is about the Buddha, and the reverse is true when you're dealing with a negative situation.
Now, do you look at the numbers first and then meditate and get a psychic reading, or does it just depends?
It depends on the situation, but predominantly I will always do a meditation before I start a case.
Okay.
And what helps me is I start laying out the dates. Now, if for example, all I had was November 13, 2022, and if that's all I had, I can backtrack all the way back for a week or 2 weeks, and I'll start seeing sequence of numbers, and I'll say, this is the situation. This person will have this kind of numbers. This person will be this kind of person. But when I start seeing who the victims are and who the suspect is, I can definitely start seeing where they fit into the sequence of numbers, and who had more detrimental numbers. For example, so if we look at that November 13, that 666 is detrimental. In other words, excuse me, I can feel that energy coming around me again.
Really?
And when you have that amount of numbers, when there is a flux of numbers, it actually tends to be negative. Too much, it's like that saying goes, too much of a good thing is not a good thing, right? So when you have too many numbers on the same day, that is going to lead to a very negative. Now, depending on how negative you want to take it, from bumping your leg on the chair to 3 people or 4 people getting murdered, So, but the thing is that when you have a flux of numbers, it's very negative. So generally, I start with a meditation, then I start looking at charts. And then if I need to, and it's been quite interesting lately, excuse me, when I start putting the charts together, I start receiving messages, I start receiving images. So it's all part of the process, but I always start, to answer your question directly, I always start with a meditation.
Okay, great. Now, which slide would you like next, or do you want me to jump in with a chart?
No, you go for it. Let's go with you a bit.
All right, but this slide is really interesting, especially with the 6s.
I just wanted to make a note there, and thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
Now, what's quite interesting, on the November the 13th, we have those 666, so we have an outcome 12-3, right?
Okay.
Now, what's interesting, when he was arrested on December the 30th, we have the 12-3-36, which is the 6-6-12-3 outcome. So very much mirrored on the day that the murders occurred. And I believe, so if you look at November 13, we have that 13-4 there, right?
Yep.
So that is the 13 of that day. That 13-4 already tells me it's about death. It's about death and endings. Very negative number, particularly in a negative context. That 13-4, if you want to compare it to a tarot card, is the death card.
Yes. Even though if you get the death card, that doesn't always mean death. We should put that out
No,
there.
absolutely. No, absolutely. No, no. Let's be clear. I agree with you 100%. That 13-4 in a positive aspect means
Yes,
someone is like leaving a job today and starting a new job tomorrow. It
exactly.
is like leaving your town today and moving into another town tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much, you know?
Exactly. But that is fascinating. And it's funny, I get confused because sometimes I look at Chinese astrology, and for my animal, it says your lucky number is 6. So and then I see
Mm.
something like this and I'm like, okay, so which is
No,
it?
look, no, Val, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. But, you know, I've been saying this to my viewers on my channel, and that is we must take these numbers in the given context. One,
Mm-hmm.
that a
Yes.
murder occurred. Two, who the people were involved, because, you know, you bring in a combination of, you bring in people into one mix with an outcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's impossible that you, for example, if you start talking about the sixes, will land up in this situation because you've got a 6 in your chart, let's say, for example. But
Yes.
keep in mind, this is the culmination of technically 5 people, let's say for now, 5 people involved in a particular situation. So that 6 today for this chart can mean something different tomorrow for someone else. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Good to know. And this is interesting. Rachel or Raquel Smith says Cyclone Bola hit East Pakistan on 12/13 of November in 1970. So, wow, a lot of 13s and a lot of different tragic events I've noticed. 13s and
Yeah.
8s.
All right.
So,
So
East
should we just
Pakistan.
do a quick look at this quickly? Let's see.
I love when you do live demonstrations. I wasn't expecting this.
No problem. I quickly got my notepad out here.
Okay.
So what do we have here? So we got the November, which is 11/2. And so I'll start with the 12, which is a 12/3. Now that 12/3, quite interestingly, is, you see now, here's a good example. 12/3 in that context, where we're saying there was a cyclone hitting people or communities, 12/3 is about community. 12 with an outcome 3 is
Okay.
about community. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, that 13/4 will bring about death. Now, again, we're talking about a destructive situation, right?
Like community, so you'd put 12 would be community, 13 would be death, community death.
Yeah.
Kind of like astrology.
Yeah, not necessarily.
Okay.
So let's say
I tried.
12/3. So the 12/3. Okay, so let's just focus on the 12th. The day that the cyclone hit on the 12th affected the community. 11, November is 11/2. 11/2 is a power number, and we see that power number as well with the Idaho murders.
Okay.
Now, that power number, so 11/2 in the positive is about bringing people together. Predominantly, I would say 11s will be the double ones. So you're talking about business, transactional relationships, bringing people together. And of course, the opposite is tearing people apart or bringing people apart with the 11/2 in that negative aspect, right?
Okay.
And the 1970 is if you add 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 0 gives you the 8. And that
Yes.
8 is about weather. In this case, violent weather. Eight in a negative context can be very violent on the human body. Okay.
And you say
Eight,
8 is weather too?
eight is weather too. 8 is also about the human being and weather, extreme conditions. 8, extreme conditions. Okay. So if
Amazing.
you have 8/5, yeah, you see on that day, and maybe Rachel can let us know, on the 12th of November, 1970, it was an outcome 13/4, which is that famous 13/4 game. So very likely that lives were lost
Mhm.
and a lot of devastation. With that 8 brings about massive devastation. 8 can be very, very bad when it gets to extreme situations.
Okay, interesting. Wow.
Yeah,
I
so
can tell you've
yeah,
done this a long time because, there's so
yeah,
many different codes with these numbers,
yeah,
it seems.
exactly.
And, let's
That's
see.
why I say it's very important when it gets to um, correct. It's very important to understand the context in which it happens.
Mhm. Exactly. Yes.
Oh,
And
there's Jennifer. How are you, Jennifer?
and Shelley says, look at all the 3s on your slide.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm very dense here.
And I studied, a lot of people on my channel know that I do the degree theory, which was first really written about extensively by Nikola from Serbia. And I just got obsessed with the degree theory. So that was really my entrance into somewhat of the numerology, like the 18s, the 22s, the 8s. You just
Yeah, I think,
you see so many charts, you're going to see
no, for
patterns.
sure. Yeah,
So
your previous comment that you had from one of your viewers about power numbers. Yeah, power numbers generally do act on their own. They do bring about a higher, higher power, and in fact, a greater impact on us as well.
and that's good for people who are born like on the 22nd or on the 11th. They want to know that they can make
Well,
some positive contribution.
yeah, that's an interesting comment, because people with power numbers in their name means they have a purpose to serve, a direct purpose to serve to the people around them, as well as the greater community and, of course, the world.
Okay, interesting. Yes, and Rachel is mentioning about the East Pakistan
Oof.
600,000.
Yeah. I can tell you now that when it landed on the 12th, on the 11th, gives an outcome 5. Now, 5, I tell you, 5 is a brutal number when things go bad. It's like,
Wow.
again, context, but 5 is not a good 5 is not a good number in a bad situation. I mean, if we look at what's his name, Brian's
Yeah.
numbers, his date of birth is full of 5s. And when I saw that, that is just alarm bells. When someone has so many 5s with what he's done, it talks about
Yes, and a
drugs,
Scorpio. Like there's a convergence of all
sociopath.
of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. All right, so now I'm going to see if I can forward this along. Hang on one second. All right, so we'll get back to that one in a second. I wanted to look at, and I'm breaking the rules here, and I'm going to be honest. I don't have a
Rules are meant to
timestamp
be
for the I know. I don't have a timestamp from when, okay, you can see that now, from a week before. But I wanted to see what happened on the Saturday before the murders. So I looked up 9 p.m. Maybe they were starting something around 9. And,
Well,
I mean, it's a
yeah.
wild guess. That's what it is. But I did see a couple of things, and depending on the time, it's going to change the houses, but it's not going to change the aspects. One thing I did see, you'll see that Saturn is at 18 degrees, the evil degree, and that to me would be Brian at that point. He hasn't killed yet. It's a week before. And he's in the 8th house. So that kind of confirms for me that maybe this could be a chart that we could use. But what's really interesting to me about this chart, which would be November 5th, is that the victim represented by the moon, and what we do in astrology is we look at the blue lines to see if there's access, if there's communication.
Okay.
If somebody sees something and easily sees it, that would be a blue line, like a sextile or a trine. And on this Saturday, it shows that for some reason, Brian can see the victim. In the 10th house, that can be for all to see. Now, the moon was in Aries right then. So not sure what that means. That's not a good placement for moon. It means anger. So what you would do is you would combine it with the energy of Brian, and it would show that something is being seen out in the open that he can see, but potentially it's angering him. Now, we've said in the past, and you have too, that there's potentially more to this story. There are more people. And I think that might be part of the shock of the hearing, because maybe we're going to see more evidence. We're going to be privy to more information that might show shocking things, such as maybe more accomplices, or could show maybe the evidence isn't good. Is it admissible? I think we might see a little bit of that. But look at all of that energy in the 10th house. So 9 p.m., the victim is out in the open, maybe out in public, but could be doing something for one's career in the 10th house. And you can see a collection. Now, that's pretty amazing in the 5th house of parties. 5th house means parties. Scorpio means sexy parties. And there was a rumor that maybe an online fans type of platform is involved somehow with how there was access, how someone would see someone. So, and were there parties at someone's home? Now, one thing I was reading about that is confusing to me, and you guys let me know if you have an answer. But when Kaylee said she was going to meet Madison that night on the 12th, she told her mom and dad that she was going to a party. But we only saw that she was at a bar. And I'm not aware of a party at the bar. So could this have been a separate party they went to, or had done something together that where everyone could see them? It's just one theory that I have, especially with this type of a chart. And what also, the other thing too, is Saturn there, that's at the apex of the T-square, which is the red triangle. Okay. That shows that he's just, it's like an earthquake. It's like he's broken up. And it's aimed at the 5th house of parties. Was he not invited to something? Did they tell him not to come? Did they ban him from something? And so I wonder if something like that happened in the days leading up to the crime.
Yeah, I just got the word, the odd geek.
Yes.
So they might have considered him, interesting, the odd geek. They might have considered him a little bit strange, a little bit off, but definitely considered him an odd geek for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, a woman is going to see the features of him, but he's probably, the way that he communicates is not to their liking, maybe. So to me, it shows that they are, and I have another slide I'm going to bring up. This is what's really interesting, to see these 3 planets on top of each other. And we've got the sun and Venus together, and that's blondes. And the south node almost shows that like they're leaving a party. Mercury, that I'm pointing the green, the arrow to the green symbol, that is, that's kind of like talking dirty, because Scorpio is like dirty talk and Mercury is talking. So, I don't know what that means. I don't know why I put witnesses.
On the 5th,
Yes. So, and that witnesses, that's supposed to be next to the arrow that goes to the green symbol. But, and this is the week before, that's on the 5th.
Yeah, the 5th.
At 9 p.m. So it's almost like they're leaving a party and he's trying to get to them and he can't. So it was kind of like that. I did another show where it was like, was he trying to get to them on Halloween night? So there seems to be several instances from the charts that I've seen that he was making an attempt. But here's the other thing. This is the crime chart. And at the bottom of the chart, you see Pluto. Pluto is an amplification. When you have, let's say you have a couple of people that are watching you, say that would be Mercury is to communicate with. And you have that sextile, that blue line down to Pluto. That is fans. That's a ton of fans. Okay. And you can see that kite there, where there is an incredible amount of energy going towards women making money. And so I'm old school, and I think you might be able to, let me see. I'm going to bring this up for a second.
The subject of taxes and insurance might come up in Scorpio-themed crimes, and there may be mystical elements like psychics, astrologers, or even ghosts, like some claim can be seen on screen during the Vito Corleone funeral scene. When Scorpio people take on other people's names, they might adopt a Scorpio name with a sin or a bad. Scorpio names can include Middle Eastern names or Irish names. In health matters, Scorpio can represent private parts or the prostate. You'll see a lot of private meetings going on in The Godfather.
Hi, everyone. Val. Okay. So that was from one of my first ones. And
I'm just trying to pick up if I'm picking up anything around parties or let's say debauch parties or anything like that. But I'm not picking up anything at the moment.
Okay.
So this would have been a week before. Now that is just that Saturday, November the 5th, is a 13-4 outcome day as well. That probably, when you asked me to look back on the days, I definitely also highlighted November the 5th. I would say November 4, 5, 6, 7 were high impact days with him and the students. And I actually, if you had to look at November the 6th, the numbers are almost identical, to what would have happened on the 13th. Now, on that 6th as well, on the November the 6th, we have that 17-8 that I mentioned earlier before as well.
Okay.
Or the 18-9, 17-8 build-up.
The number 8.
Now, that was on the 6th, but on the 5th, yeah, we've definitely got big parties going on. There's definitely parties going on from a numerology point of view. And there could have been isolation as well, definitely. Let me just see if I can pick up anything. So that would have been November the 5th. Yeah, I think, I've just been shown, and I must tell you, and I've just seen them now, being a medium as well. The 4 students have been around me every time that I've looked at this case. And in fact, how it all started for me, let's just quickly side note, is that the original vision that I received, I believe, was of Xana sitting up in the room as Brian walked in. But they've always been around, and I've just been shown by one of the girls, and I'm not going to name names, that it was a secret, was what we're discussing about these parties. It was very hush-hush secret. So, yeah, you definitely onto something. She's still showing me again now that it was very hush-hush.
Wow.
So,
whoa, that's amazing. Well, and the thing too is I'm seeing lots of secrets. That's Neptune. Where I show the word photos, that's Neptune underneath that circle.
Yeah.
And that's also secrets, and it's also drugs. So not saying that, anyone was involved with drugs, but that is the symbol for drugs. And there's a lot of money. And so when I was showing you what I had shown before Brian was caught, I was showing everyone what Scorpio was like. And we found out a few weeks later, or a couple of weeks later, that he was a Scorpio, which was interesting. But the whole reason for that, I believe it was part 3 that I had that I filmed, was to show that Scorpio secrets, it's stripped. So in the beginning, I thought, well, maybe we can find this guy, in a strip club or something. And here's me being old school. I totally forgot about OnlyFans. Didn't think about online types of like that. So this would definitely, and the reason Pluto at the bottom is a huge clue, because what does it mean? Pluto means sex. And when there's so many blue lines, it's people who want to have sex. Okay. If there's a square, it means it's a rape. But here it's like everyone has money, they have cash, they want to have fun, which is the 5th house, photos. And another thing too with this chart is that you'll see Mars circled up at the top right in the 9th house, and that's squaring that kite shape. Okay. That can show, obviously, the killer. He wants to stop all of that. He doesn't like that. But it can also show the police too. And Mars is like, maybe there were parties where the police were shutting them down. So that's
Yeah.
another possibility. And you can look at a symbol in two different ways like that, because both can be true. And so I also wanted to mention too, let me share this one.
Yeah, I just picked up that he possibly felt that he was being ostracized from the in crowd, that he felt ostracized from the main crowd.
Okay, interesting. Well, then I'm showing this now. This is the crime chart for the Chi Omega murders. And one of the big clues. Now, when you see crime charts, it's not always exactly what happened on that night, but it's against a plot or a narrative. And so you can see this is Ted Bundy. At the top is Saturn is dead, death and dead bodies. And it's sextiles Jupiter, which is many bodies. Okay, so that's against the background of this man being a serial killer. There are many bodies. And you can see when that symbol is at the very top, that's what you can see from the scenario. Okay, so then we go back to the crime chart for Brian Kohberger, and you can see Moon and Black Lilith at the top. Moon is women, Black Moon Lilith is sexy women, or women that men lust after. So that is probably one of the main, I think, themes here. Aside from the drugs that maybe other people might have, there might be that other drug theme somehow in peripheral to the crime. What do you think?
Well, definitely from a numerology point of view, on that day, there's 5, so that tells me drugs.
Okay.
And even on the day, Saturday, November 5, there was definitely drugs on the scene, definitely. And including the day before the actual murders, lots of drugs on the scene there as well. Huh?
Yes. Okay. Interesting. So
lots of drugs.
Potentially part of the secret. And interesting. Shelley says 661-13-4 again. Oh, from Chi Omega, which is crazy because now that crime was 15th, and he was actually picked up 1 month after on the 15th by routine traffic stop. But I don't know if you guys feel like looking at that chart, but you can see the traffic stop there. Now in that crime chart, he's Venus, and you can forward the chart to see when the police get him. And the police, they are right there up at the top, and they are opposing.
Yeah, it's an outcome 7-day justice.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, so they got him. But so that might be one way you can look at your crime charts and see what the next month,
what am I right? Let's see, 2/15/78. 6/8, I beg your pardon. 9/7/15/6. Connection and disconnection.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I think he had 2 different personalities, because especially when he was drinking, he turned in, and he even told his ex before he died that he just couldn't control this evil energy that he had. And I wonder if that was the case. But I compare him with Kohberger because they both were very smart, the interest in higher education and being really interested in being that dynamic person, and then just earned, which I thought was amazing. Now, one of the things that they found, the police, in his car, and it was in the affidavit, was like a criminal psychology book. So in the back of my mind, I think to myself, maybe he's really studying this whole thing. Maybe he wants to get famous and write this grand thesis on whether it's how I got away.
Yeah, you actually just reminded me what I picked up when I did my first reading on the case, and that is, he was definitely, I really believe that this was kind of like a case study, exactly how you mentioned. And of course, he could have modeled his approach or his philosophy on previous serial killers. But definitely what I picked up during at the time of the murders, that he was definitely doing this as a case study, which is quite ironic at the end of the day, because he got caught so bad with so many faults and errors, which is a good thing, because obviously he needed to be caught. But yeah, I definitely picked up a case study. And, he had how can I put it, being a sociopath, and with all those files and his numbers, he thought he could definitely get away with it, and he would almost be invisible. And, I must say, when I was when I was meditating on the vision that I received, because I saw Xana sitting up in the bed.
Yes.
And I saw this very kind of stocky, strong person beating down on them. And even then, it was very difficult to see the face or see who this person is properly. Excuse me. And I believe, he obviously goes into some kind of a mind switch, or switches into a mode of the killer mode, that kind of thing. But yeah, definitely not a nice person at all, of course.
Okay, interesting. And by the way, if anybody would like to like and subscribe and share, that would be great. And also take a visit over to Psychic Medium Roberto. He has got so many great case studies. And I'd like to touch on what you were seeing when you were looking at the Idaho murder case in the beginning, and you were saying there's something up with that keypad. You were thinking that there really was something to that when that was being reported.
Yeah, I just, I didn't pick it up in my meditation, but when I was doing the actual reading, so generally I do a meditation before the reading. Sometimes I do 2 sessions of meditation. And then when I get to the recording, I take what I feel is valid clues. And then, of course, during the recording, I receive some additional images and so on. But yeah, for some reason, I kept on being shown the keypad, and I'm seeing it again now. And apparently, thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Crystal. Yeah. I saw a comment from someone that apparently Xana's father, and I stand to be corrected here, this is not a psychic thing, but apparently Xana's father had installed new locks on the property, if I remember correctly. But yeah, and I tried to tap into it, and I'll see if I'll tap into it now again, but I kept on being shown that keypad, and again, and I don't want to start other rumors and other issues here, but, there was, everyone in the beginning was thinking that the 2 other roommates were involved with this in some way or form, and possibly giving him the access code. But, in retrospect, there were so many feet moving in and out of that house that it would be almost impossible, to identify who was the one that had the PIN code. Because, I've lived in a commune when I was a student. You give the code to friends, people coming in and out. There's regular people in and out. So unfortunately, from a security point of view, that wasn't a very safe location, unfortunately, given, what actually happened. But yeah, but since then, I haven't been able to pick up any more on that keypad. And I'll just see now if I can pick up anything else, if I was meant to, what I was meant to pick up on that. But
would you like me to go to one of your slides, just take a look one more time? And then I have a question to ask you about one story you told me about that I wanted you to share with my audience. But did you want to look at this one or the other one? And you also sent me a third one too that I didn't get a chance to.
No problem. We can stay on this slide, not a problem.
Okay.
So what I did here was, at the time when I did the show, of course, we didn't have the 4 students' date of birth, which I found recently, or preparing for the show at least. And what I wanted to do was just compare what was the impact on these students versus Brian, as well as the actual day. So everything in red is related to the day of the murder, and everything in orange is related to Brian directly.
Oh, God.
And, it's quite interesting that the Brian has a 10-1 outcome, where Ethan 10-1 also has the 10-1 from October and the day that he's born. Now, I picked up a sense when I was doing these cards there that he definitely did not anticipate Ethan being in that location. And I believe, according to reports, that he put up a bit of a fight trying to prevent him from killing them. But it's interesting that a 10-1 would meet a 10-1 on that evening. And yeah, it's just unfortunate that these guys had to go the way they did. But
and what this is demonstrating is that there's a synchronicity between the energies of people. Could you say that?
Yes, actually, I'll take this opportunity just to mention that I'll be launching my Patreon in a couple of weeks, and what I'm going to be looking at, I'm going to have a series there on serial killers.
Okay, perfect.
Where we will look at the serial killer in relation to the victims and why. From an educational point of view, why the victims crossed his path, or why did the serial killer cross their paths? And we'll discuss that in full length on the Patreon site. But to answer your question here, the most impacts that happened, I believe, is Madison and Kaylee.
Okay.
Yeah, 8. Yeah, it can mean several things. It just depends, Jennifer, is Jennifer asking. 8 can also be, if you look at it from an educational point of view, 8 is all about engineering, mechanics, all the heavy machinery as well. So again, you have to look at, and this is why I keep saying, you have to look at everything in context of what is happening on a given situation.
When you say that, it makes me think, I want to instantly run to the chart for, or the time for the collapse of the buildings in Miami. Would you see that collapses 8?
Yeah, really.
Okay. Yeah, engineering.
No. Did you see an 8 in those numbers?
I haven't checked.
No, I don't know if you would see an 8, but of course, if it was, and I believe it was infrastructural engineering faults, so there's a very good chance that there's definitely 8s involved there as well.
Okay.
But just to get back here, the most impact on the day was, I believe, Madison and Kaylee. Mm-hmm. Now, I believe Brian's targets were Madison and Kaylee, most definitely. We see the outcome of their date of birth, their ages were also a 3. Okay. And that's the 3 of the day.
Okay.
And then we see Madison has the 12-3, which is the same outcome of the day. Mm-hmm. And we see Madison has a life path 6, which is also the mass of 6s on those days. Now, what strikes me, and I'm just going to say it, I don't want to say who is the main victim and who is not, but, everyone's been saying, and maybe I'm just saying this and I'm getting someone's ear, someone's come to me now, that Kaylee, everyone was saying in the beginning, Kaylee was the target. Kaylee, I want to just say, we should never victim blame or, it's this person's fault because everyone else got killed. It's not at all. Brian is the arsehole here. Yes. Plain and simple. He has woman issues for sure. We see November the 13th, that 13-4 also talks about women. 3 is about feminine energy. It's about the woman. So this was Brian with woman issues. Now, it could have been, for example, Jane and Paulina that pissed him off one day, and then he went after them. That's all it is. He could have just construed something badly for himself, but again, it's him with female issues, woman issues, control issues. That's all it was. Kaylee's not responsible, Madison's not responsible, Xana's not responsible, Ethan's not responsible. So, but I would say the biggest impact was on Madison. She has the 12-3, double 3s, the 6, and the 3 in the age. And then obviously Kaylee has the 3 and has the 6s as well. But it impacted everyone, of course, but to a lesser or greater degree. But I would say, in my opinion, that it actually impacted Madison more than anyone else.
Interesting.
Out of the 4. But again, Brian is the perpetrator here. He is the killer. He is the bad one.
Okay. And Slow ride over landing. Would you ever do a reading on other suspects? Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
have
I've
you
got
ever?
a lot of other shows coming up, but yeah, it takes time.
It does. It does.
It generally takes me about 2 days to do one episode. It's not a matter of just, once I've got an idea, then, there's quite a bit of research involved, but not so much the research, it's the meditation.
Exactly.
It's the meditation involved that also takes time. And I spend quite a bit of time analyzing the charts, receiving images, and then I'll put a show out. But absolutely, I'm open to any suggestions, no problem.
Now, RV and keep it rolling. I feel the Brian stuff about women is rumors. One of his classmates came out and said he had no problem with girls, which I'm not sure is the case. And I'll tell you, in one of my last shows, I talked a little bit about when you see someone going into a Saturn dasha and using cosmic squares online. And he had, and if anybody feels like researching this, I believe he had started his Saturn period in November of 2020. I believe that was right after he got his degree. It may have been when he moved. Usually people move north when they go in their Saturn dasha. But to me, when you go into that dasha, you tend to feel less. You feel, because the whole point of the period is for you to go inward, be solitary, and work on something that you're eventually going to bring out to the world. But things can turn, especially for him in his chart, mean. People, I could see people were mean to him. They were nasty. He was nasty back. And so I'm thinking with that type of environment, that type of energy, I can't imagine that he had that much popularity with girls at the time.
Not at all. No, when I was looking at his charts again today and preparing for the show, coupled with the woman issue, he has a very destructive nature as well. And, we can pick up that destructive nature in someone that is consuming a lot of drugs,
yes,
or alcohol and that kind of thing. So he definitely has the destructive nature in him.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that destruction obviously took part in what he did to the students. But definitely woman issues, definitely destructive personality, and really doesn't even think, he wouldn't even thought twice about anyone's feelings or emotions at any time in his life. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Now, I think what I want is, for my charts, I want to be able to understand the jealousy and maybe the revenge from the Brian side of things. But then there's a cash element. What was the cash doing? And you see that, I'm not sure if that actually happened. There's cash around, lots of it, because of that second house. And in Scorpio, it shows other people's cash. It's funny. I was looking at the Scorpio. Scorpio means the gutter. And you guys are going to laugh and think this is silly, but Mercury in Scorpio shows like a gutter voice. So it even shows how they talk. And so there are lots of women, with other people's cash. And where is it? So I don't, I'm not victim blaming either, but that element or that theme really seems very strong in this chart. So I would like to know how we connect that. And I don't know, maybe the answers are coming. I'm not sure.
I'm not picking up anything now about money. Or on my previous episodes, I didn't pick up money issues.
Okay. I guess we'll see.
Are you suggesting, according to your charts, that he had money issues or he was making money from things?
Well, he very well could have, because what I had said in one of my earlier, before actually it was even told that he was having trouble with his job because he was fired. I believe it was in my second or third show where it showed Uranus, and that shows a problem like a breakup or some kind of, a job, or like he was quitting or fired. So that's actually a good point to say that. But with that second house, with Venus in the second house, it really shows a lot of women, and it shows some kind of secret way that people are making money.
Well, actually, yeah, I've just been tipped, and I've just picked it up again. I think it was on the second video I did, where I just did a profile on him. I always thought there was, in some way, I still believe there was someone else involved, and that someone else can definitely be an online community as well, or a group of people on an online community. And I definitely picked up, there was definitely, and I know it was reported, we're all familiar with the reporting Reddit and what he was doing on Reddit and all that kind of thing, but I definitely feel there was definitely communication going on online before the crime.
Yes. So, who knows if that posed some kind of lore there.
Now, I just think with the online activity, I'm actually getting a sense now. My screen just went off. Hold on, I'm picking on something here. Yeah, there was definitely a pornography stroke prostitution element, online element here with him as well.
Yes.
And with all those fives, I wouldn't be surprised. Fives can be very deviant people. There was definitely something going on online community with him. And I know that was reported at the time that he was getting or putting out or researching how to leave a crime scene, for example, and all those kind of things. But there were other people he was communicating with, and I'm just picking up an image now, actually. There was definitely, I'm going to just say it, male, facial hair, very dark energy, red, that he was possibly communicating with. There was definitely a male, slightly overweight as well, bearded, very dark energy around him as well. Online community, I see the screen light on him. And there's a bit of vengeance, and so I'm seeing aura as well. The person that I'm seeing, this was all done out of an angry situation, I believe. So somewhere, whether it was him not being invited to a party or not getting the nod, but he was a lot older than these guys as well anyway. I'm just picking up whether he heard about it directly or indirectly that created this whole scenario. But I suppose we'll hear about it in the court case if it's quite thorough, but there was definitely an online person involved here as well, huh?
Yes, and Carly says, and we should say allegedly, he was obsessed with OnlyFans and subscribed to a lot of accounts. And of course, all of our content here is our opinion and not based on
alleged. Alleged.
And he did have an eBay. He was a seller. Oh God, I mean, what did he sell? And I think obviously they went all through that, and we'll be hearing probably more. And then I wanted to answer a question about, do I read sidereal charts? Yes, I do. I mainly focus on Placidus because I like to look at the degree theory, which is how you apply the degree theory. You have to read Placidus, but I do go back and forth with Vedic and Western. So before we go, we have a couple of minutes. I am just, first of all, thank you.
It's an hour up already. Geez, well, we're going to have to do a part 2 or make it 2 hours at some stage.
Yes, I know. That would be great. And we have so many questions too, but I wanted to talk to you about I think this is such a fascinating story that you told me, and how you live in a conservative type of area. And for years, you had told me that you decided to keep your gift or your ability to yourself. And then something happened where you couldn't keep it to yourself any longer. And that was your clairvoyant clues or visions that would come to you.
You're talking about the fire.
Yes. Can you tell us about the fire?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. When I was born psychic, in fact, my first experience was as a medium when I was a little kid, when my late grandmother used to come visit me as a kid. And, and as I grew up as a teenager, that kind of fell away because, being a boy, being a teenager, being all this kind of thing back in the 80s. So yeah, I always kept it to myself. I always referred to it as my competitive advantage, right? And then one day, look, over the years, even when I was younger, but when I was working in the TV industry, I was working at a very top production company, and the two owners were very conservative Afrikaans people in this country, which is the Netherlands heritage line in the country that we have here. I mean, we have 11 official languages in this country, in South Africa. And so one morning I received a vision of the company having burnt down. And, when I was 21, I was trained by a psychic called Vanessa Tetler, and she always taught me how to interpret my visions and how to expand on them so I can understand exactly. So it took me about 3 days, 72 hours of repetition, meditating on it and understanding what I'm seeing. And I had no choice. I think the universe was pushing me forward to say, come on, it's time. This was in 2010. And so anyway, I put my ego aside and I went to one of the owners. They were both brothers, operational manager. And I called a meeting with him and his brother. Now, you must understand, these guys are churchgoers. They're conservative. I was a top producer. I must say I was one of the top producers there. In fact, the year before, I was made top producer of the year. So this was like putting my whole life reputation on the line here.
So you had a normal life. People thought you were normal.
Yeah, everyone thought I was normal, right? So anyway, I called a meeting with them. And I said to them, listen, this is the vision I've had. Your company's going to burn down. And so I said to them, the video library is going to burn down. And now you must understand that in those days, there was like probably about 20 years worth of news stock, episode stock, film stock. I mean, these guys were prolific filmmakers, right? So we went down and inspected the library area, very cluttered, very dirty. I said to them, listen, guys, this whole area is going to burn down and it's going to feed into the company, right? So on that day, they got the local manager to clean up the area, clean up the entire building. So this was in October.
And they were basically... They were heeding your advice, even though they were like, okay.
Yeah. Look, I mean, they respected me as a producer and as a person, So, I told them, listen, this is the situation,
Okay. Did you say it was a dream or was it a vision? Like how?
No, vision. Vision. As I woke up, half lucid, half awake, it hit me, dunk, like it usually does. I've had so many visions, and
okay.
So anyway, they cleared the whole area. That was in October. Then in December, we all went on vacation. And there was a skeleton staff at the company. Now, it's a massive company. It's huge, right? And then when we came back, we found out that a fire, in fact, did break out at the studio during December. And it actually started in one of the edit suites close by. And because of their preparedness and readiness, they were able to contain the fire. There was no clutter around. There was damage, but let me tell you, rather have one edit suite burnt down versus an entire company with over 300 staff, So, that was the universe nudging me to come out as psychic.
Yep, and to take it more seriously. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who knows? Maybe you saved some lives, but you hear a lot of people talk about their dreams or visions. What's the difference? Should you pay attention to your dreams, or sometimes is it just...
Oh, absolutely. Dreams are very important. Dreams are very, very, very important. They can either be just an anxiety release dream, what you've been going through. You always wake up feeling a little bit angst. But then you also get prolific dreams that, they give you insight into your current situation. They give you insight into the future. I take dreams very seriously, very, very seriously, yeah.
Great. Well, it's good to know, because sometimes I just think it's, just our mental state when we go to sleep. So, we do.
For sure. Yeah. No, you know what, actually, can I quickly, my cousin's in a bit of a situation. She's in hospital at the moment.
Oh, yes.
And, yeah. So last night, I woke up at between like 2 and 3 in the morning. This was like in the past 24 hours. I was sleeping for like 3-4 hours. I shot up in bed I've never felt so anxious, and I couldn't breathe. I was struggling to breathe. I couldn't understand what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then this morning we received a message that my cousin was struggling to breathe the early hours of this morning. She's currently in ICU and she was struggling to breathe. So, I'm very connected to my cousin. And so I obviously picked up on it in my sleep, and I woke up, I was struggling to breathe. And then this morning I was told my cousin Angelique was having issues this morning breathing,
Oh, I hope she's okay. Gosh.
Yeah.
Well, and you should probably check on her, and I'm going to sign off in another minute. But Tammy is asking, what is your channel name? Oh, you're on mute. Take yourself off mute.
Sorry, my channel is Psychic Medium Roberto.
Okay. And thank you, Social. I cannot get enough of this channel. Thank you for all your videos. I've been enjoying them all, especially regarding Idaho 4 murders. Yes. And I also want to leave you guys with this, just something I saw with regard to, let me see if you could see this. Yeah. Okay. This is about one of the witnesses that saw the Chi Omega murders, or didn't really see them, but saw Ted. At least she said she saw them. So they put her under hypnosis, and she gave a description, and sketches were made. 1 week later, Ms. Neary was placed under hypnosis from when she saw him and questioned concerning what 336 she had seen. I think that's the address. During the hypnosis session, Ms. Neary said she had seen brown hair hanging out of the back of the man's ski cap. This, in a reference to the man's eyebrows, were the only factual elements obtained through hypnosis. I thought that was just an unbelievable comparison to this case. So every time I read something more, I can look back at Kohberger, which is what the witness saw that night. So just thought that was weird, but anyway, well, we are so thankful that you could join us tonight or today. And it's not tonight because of the time change. So that's why we were so early. Apologies to why people are getting unsubscribed. I think there's a bug in YouTube or something, but they're not getting notifications. Remember to hit the bell. If you're interested in a reading, you can go to forensicastrologer.com, and you can also get a reading from Roberto, and you can go to your YouTube channel and get the information.
Yeah, all the information's there, or you can just email me on psychicmediumroberto@gmail.com. Be happy to help.
All right, perfect. Well, we hope to see you back again. Thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you, Val, for inviting me. It's my first time on camera with my channel and with me, and I should do more in the future.
I'm glad we could bring you out. All right.
The universe is nudging me again. I do feel that the universe is nudging me to go forward again. So there's exciting things happening on my end. Like I mentioned, the Patreon site will be launching soon. Right. I'm going to be looking at the genres, if I may. I'm going to be looking at the serial killers with the impact on victims, how they pass across. I'm going to be looking at mass events as well, how that impacted victims as well. Okay. And the other one, what was the other one? I can't remember the third one. But I'll be posting and letting the viewers know what's coming up next on the Patreon site as well.
Right. And if you want to see Roberto's show on Idaho, I'm going to list that in the description box for the show.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, Val. Really appreciate it. And thanks for nudging me.
All right. Well, thank you. See you next time. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.